Welcome to Forever Exile, the Path of Exile podcast. I am Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Record of Days.
Serious. Episode 62, Forever Exiled. Is that anything special to 62? Is that a...
No, it's not a rep digit. No one cares.
Isn't there something else, though? How about to something where the second number is 3 times, or the first number is 3 times higher than the second number? Is that a thing?
Probably a thing. It's probably like a triple rep digit.
That's
I don't know what it's called.
62. Happy New Year. We're actually recording this on January 1, 2021. Happy New Year, Ty.
Happy New Year, Just. And Happy New Year, everyone else.
Yeah, sure. Yep. To you guys too. Everybody listening. A big shout out to all of our Patreons for supporting the podcast. You guys are amazing. If you don't know what our Patreon is, it gives you access to a plethora of things, but the main one being After Dark. It's our podcast after the podcast. I think our lowest tier, $5, gets you access to roughly four additional episodes every month. And today's After Dark is going to be hilarious. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, big shout out to all you guys who are supporting the podcast. You are amazing.
Agreed.
How was your week, Ty?
Well, we had a big week, right? It's been almost 2 weeks since we recorded last because we recorded early because of the Christmas holidays. So we had an awesome Christmas. The kids, when you have kids, it's just, they're everything.
Yeah.
They're the best. But so all the gifts were all lined up, all perfect. We were able to find everything. It was good. And one of the gifts that was supposed to be from a very specific individual, it was confirmed and ready to go early November, was canceled and refunded 3 days before Christmas without warning. They just said that it's not being made anymore. So here's your money back.
Amazon?
No, it's like one of those no, it wasn't Amazon. It was like a pop funk website.
Wow.
They just sell tons of stuff.
That sucks.
And yeah, it was in process for over a month. And it was 3 days before the day where it's like, nope, it's not being made anymore. We're like, okay, tell us like a month ahead of time. So,
wow.
But our kid was really good about it and totally fine. And so it was nice. That was the one thing that he really wanted above everything else. So it was pretty sad, but really good. But we just had an awesome time spending time, just the four of us. My wife finally has the seniority to take time off during the holidays, like on the actual day. We've always been fine not celebrating on the day. The day's not crazy important, like actually celebrating Christmas on Christmas, like if you do shift work and all that stuff, celebrating the first week of January, that's fine, right? So anyway, but it was nice for her to actually get the time off. And, we couldn't spend it with extended family, as nobody else probably was either, but we had an awesome time, just the four of us. And it was a lot of fun. And then we also, on New Year's Eve, you, myself, significant others, friends, loved ones, we played Among Us online together. Goodness, that was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
And it really encourages playing more often. You know what I mean? Like the game gets better the more you play. So that was a ton of fun. And because of a pretty hilariously tipsy Justin, during Among Us, my wife tried PoE for the first time today. She stopped the fight. She caved in. She played it for a few hours. Wow. And she broadcasted it. She wants a second monitor.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
You got to.
It was perfect.
Awesome.
You get her in the free game, and she's just like starting to want to throw money around. So it was pretty sweet. So anyway, I had an awesome week, and a couple dreams came true. Just a couple dreams came true, all because of you.
I try, buddy.
Thanks. Tell me about yours.
Christmas is awesome. Christmas Day we had a blast. Kids had a blast. Dinner, because you're allowed to with regards to parents and how they live and stuff, we were at least able to have my mom and dad over for Christmas because my dad lives in our basement suite and my mom's on her own. So we had dinner with them. It was fine. It was really quick. It was kind of weird. It's such a weird time right now, like just with COVID and the restrictions that we have in BC. It's just weird. It was just a very different Christmas, but it was good. Very chill compared to normal. Normally we've got like 35 people coming to our house. So the whole day between, we enjoy our Christmas morning and into the like early afternoon, but come like 1 o'clock, usually we're into prep mode and getting everything ready for a big dinner in the evening. So it was kind of nice this year not to have to do that. Boxing Day, I had a conversation with myself on Boxing Day.
Oh, congratulations.
Yep.
How was it? You get to know each other?
My wife went out. She had to do a couple returns or something. I can't remember what it was, but she sent me a picture from the mall in our town. It was making her angry. She's like, this is ridiculous. Like, she was there too, but she was trying to get a couple returns done without, I don't know why. I don't even know why you'd go out on Boxing Day, but the mall was packed. Jam packed with people, all wearing masks, which is good, but it was
absurd
packed.
That it's allowed to be.
Right. Especially when you tell us we can't have anybody in our house. Like, I can't have my, close family, but you want to go to the mall and hang out, knock yourself out. So I stayed home, but I had a conversation with myself to stop working. So that was good. Like, I actually started working on Boxing Day, and then I was like, what am I doing? I need to just chill. So I played Cyberpunk on Boxing Day for a little bit. That was a lot of fun. And yeah, then we did Among Us because we usually hang out New Year's Eve. I think you guys have come over too, and we've usually have a lot of friends over.
Of course we have. Goodness me, get out of here.
I can't
We're
tell.
your
Sometimes it's hard to remember if you come. I can't tell. But no, usually we have a bunch of people over. So this year we couldn't do that. And so we thought, well, let's do something virtual. And we've done games and stuff before, but I know your wife had brought up Among Us, and I've wanted to try Among Us, and so have a couple other people. What an easy game to play hanging out. Yeah. And we were able to just chill on the couch, and we had Zoom up so we could all chat and see each other and stuff. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty certain I'm allergic to alcohol. I think. And I'm not I'm not sure if it's just in large quantities or just in general. I just don't feel I don't ever get hungover. I never feel like groggy or I just don't feel good the next day. Like, my stomach bugs me. I don't have a great next day with regards to like wanting to eat or anything like that.
I love that you're pretending it's an allergy.
I'm pretty sure it's an allergy.
I'm allergic to alcohol because it impacts me when I have a lot.
It happens though sometimes when I don't have a lot. That's why I think that. Like, it doesn't seem to matter about quantity, but I had a lot of stuff to drink while we played. During that time, we made some agreements. So
we did.
A lot of people we had my wife, your wife, and then two of our buddies. Oh, actually, we had a lot more than that. And then we had two other couples as well. That's right.
There were 10 of us at our peak numbers. Yeah. Really close friends and family.
As we got later into the evening, some of those old couples dropped off. And so there were 8
all younger than us too.
6 of us left at the end. Yeah, we talked to them about so we have a lot of guests coming in after dark, which is going to be a lot of fun. And what's crazy is all 4 of them played Path of Exile today for the first time. I don't think any of them had played Path of Exile before.
Not once. What a crazy thing. Your wife, my wife, and then Ryan and Chris,
who are both patrons as well, but never touched Path of Exile, which is awesome. I was laughing to myself today, like, this has got to be close to Tyler's heaven. Like, our friends and his wife.
I had to change my pants like 6 times.
You know what? You weren't responding to my messages, but I could see you on your wife's camera watching her and on your phone. I was like, wow, he's totally into it because he's not responding to my messages at all.
Look at this. For science.
He's showing
look at
me
this.
An ugly notepad.
And it's like, this is like kind of like what it's like to play PoE. So I just let her play. I didn't like tell her stuff unless she had a question, but I didn't want to like give stuff away. I wanted to see how she figured it out. If the stuff that's, I've always thought that PoE's tutorial introduction, even though they really improved it in 3.0, I always thought it's just missing way too much really valuable information to hook a new player that doesn't know about the game already. Mm-hmm. And so this was me writing down the things that I thought were really cool that I never noticed, or things that I think are missing, but from a perspective that I could only gain by watching someone new play. Right. You and I have 18,000-20,000 hours in the game between the two of us.
Sure.
There's no way we can have an accurate opinion of what a legit tutorial is like. So I wrote the notes down, and I didn't want to I'd love to get into it, and I totally can. This is what we won't do it right now, but So that's what I was doing. That's why I didn't see your messages. Plus, she was broadcasting. She was reading and laughing. So
we'll chat more about that later. And then definitely that'll be a lot of After Dark, which is going to be a lot of fun hearing from some of them what they thought about the experience. The deal was that they needed to play PoE and beat Brutus. Get to at least Brutus if they were going to come on After Dark, which I assume they all did. I honestly don't even know.
Nobody did. Maybe your wife did, but I don't think the other 3 did. Good for her. Wow, doubled the distance.
Yeah.
Good for you. Oh, you had her like burning fire under her butt, probably. Don't pick that up. Just go do this. No, click there.
I helped a little bit, and then I had stuff to do. So, but my son was in the office, and so he was kind of helping her out. And I definitely did not just go like, here, have at it. I like tried to help her through, because it is not the greatest intro to a game.
No.
It's not good.
You don't know where to go. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to talk. You don't know how to vendor. You don't know what a good item is or not. You forget what links are halfway through breaking the eggs. Anyway, it was super cool to watch them all play.
That was a lot of fun. Among Us, great co-op game. I thought that was so much fun. I got to we played for hours. I was the imposter 2 times.
Yeah. And Ryan was the imposter every time?
Like a freaking 100 billion times.
Yeah.
And then there was like a stretch of like an hour and a half where every single time we started, people killed me first.
Oh, that was the best.
It was so annoying.
You got so good at being a ghost. And you can't talk. Awesome. No, you're not allowed to talk. That's the hardest part about that
game. You guys all would have a meeting, and there were times where I was literally staring down at the ground. My wife had just killed me and instantly called a meeting to accuse someone else, and I was under my breath just being like, you son of a mother effer. And then I can't say anything at all. She's trying not to laugh, and I'm just pissed.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was good. But people started showing their tells by the end of the night. I mean, you started falling asleep with your phone in your hand, but people started having their tells by the end of the night. It was pretty cool.
It was a late night.
Yeah, it was. We forced ourselves to go to bed, and we weren't tired, and that's how fun it was. 2:30 for us old folk. Normally I'm...
Oh, you were the whole time anyway.
By 11:30.
You were the whole time.
Hey, I made it to 2:30. You hush.
That was impressive. That never happens. How was your PoE week?
Did you have one?
No, besides watching my wife play.
Awesome. All right.
I did not.
So I actually had a really big couple weeks because it's been technically, I guess, 2 weeks, 2 days short of 2 weeks. And my goodness, okay, it's Edda, someone that I hang out with on Twitch. They were a huge help. They pointed out that Safarian, I apologize if I'm saying the name wrong, but very big in the PoE community. I never really noticed because I don't actually follow a lot of the popular streamers, not for any other reason than just simply time. Like when I sit down to play, or when I have time to myself, I want to sit down and play. But I'm familiar with some of them. You see the names pop around enough as you involve yourself in the community. And apparently Safarian plays all the time with a controller. I never knew
on PC.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so there was Edda from Twitch sent me a video of Safarian's kind of tutorial on how to set it up with this free program. And you can use whatever controller you want that connects to the computer. And this is how it works. Displayed it, added in which parts are personal preference, which parts are sort of kind of required. So it was pretty cool. So that was a big revelation for me. That might actually, no, not yet. But
does it require the Steam one? Because I remember we talked. I was going to give you mine. I just totally forgot.
No, but I could use it. I might even be able to use the Steam controller without needing that software. So I'd be curious to try it.
Cool.
I made a Reddit post, created one. Want to know what it was about?
Sure.
Console and PC, I have a hard time clicking, and I know that's not really a challenge for a lot of people, but on console, it's quite different where, if there's 40 enemies on the screen, but you just want to know what the boss health is, you're having the heck of a time just aiming that left analog stick in whatever general direction and hoping it focuses on the boss instead of the 20 enemies in front of it, right? So I was like, for a long time, and like, look at many other games. Dark Souls would be a great example. There's a permanent health bar on the screen anytime a boss is around. That sounds great to me in Path of Exile, especially when you can see what a great way to actually finally be able to read like the mods of the enemy. You know what I mean? Underneath the boss bar. And honestly, I'd be fine with 3 small versions of it for the maps that have 3 bosses or whatever it is. But my goodness, I've always wanted a permanent health bar for bosses in this game. And I've also wanted like a pop-up display that says boss is dead. In Dark Souls, you beat someone, it's like, success, victory, you defeated, whatever it is. In this game, like I used the example in my Reddit thread of saying, like there's some bosses where there's no fog gate, right? There's no boss gate. You simply like go around all of a sudden, like you didn't even realize the boss is dead. You're like, did I kill the boss? Did I not kill the boss? Maybe you've forgotten, right? So if there was like a heads up display or a quest tracker in every map saying, boss is defeated, check mark. I think that would be another quality of life feature when it comes to bosses as well. So I put that in my suggestions for an improved boss battle HUD post. It got the crap kicked out of it by some total losers.
I just pulled it up out of curiosity.
Oh my goodness. There was one nice person. I mean, there were people that were kind or cut the people down, but like everybody's downvoted like crazy that commented on it.
Yeah, they're all hidden.
People saying stuff like just hold alt while you're mapping all the time. Yeah, okay, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yep.
Great. And then other people are like, you just need to pay attention more. Like, okay, I'm talking about quality of life features that every single other game does, except for this one.
I don't know why, but and I'm probably wrong, but for some reason I feel like that was in PoE 2 when I got to play it. I thought there was something about actually now seeing boss bars.
You're not talking 2.0, you're talking PoE 2. Oh, my brain went in the wrong direction. Oh, I hope so.
I feel like I saw it. Oh man, I wish I could remember. Anyway.
Oh, I hope so.
You're right though. It should be and arguing against that is absolutely stupid. It is. I don't have any problem with head stuff or wrist stuff or clicking or whatever. I still think it 100% should be in the game because why not? There's not a reason to not do it. And in fact, even having like enemy health bars means jack squat. It doesn't mean anything. I want to see it's way more epic to have something big that is like, okay, you've now entered into a fight.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you 100%.
I think maybe one reason they don't is because your character is actually in the top third of the screen. You're not centered in the screen, and enemy information is typically at the top.
Make it
so
small.
Have something permanent. Right. Yeah. Change the HUD display, right? Change it however it is. But yeah, I think it would.
What a surprise though that Reddit was a dickhead about it.
Oh, I know. It was hilarious. And so I got in a mini argument with somebody because I felt like putting the energy in, and I'm like, don't be a dick. Like, be nice. We don't need anything else.
Like, that had no effect on them
rude.
at all.
I'm not being rude. You're being rude. And I'm like, no, you're being rude. And he's like, no, you're being rude. No, you're. And so that was fun for me. I enjoyed that little moment of childish behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I had about 3 going back to my PoE week. And I'm glad you agree with me. It's nice. Feels good. I had 3 solid 3-hour sessions in the last 2 weeks, which I was quite happy with. It all revolved around obs just. That's what all the cool people play. And it all revolved around my animate weapon build, just trying to like find and solidify a way to make it great for my personal preference. You know what I mean? Like the build works well as it is, but I don't like how it plays and feels. I'm not comfortable with the way my guide is actually structured. So trying to find a way that it's really fun and easy for me as well. And I think I got it. And it's 100% thanks to Tom, who responds frequently on YouTube.
I love Tom.
Yeah. So you don't need that. Now, you know how inspiration support works, right? This is common with Righteous Fire builds. You have, let's say Righteous Fire is linked to Cyclone, right? But then you also link, or sorry, not Righteous Fire. You have inspiration.
It's a weird combo.
Justin. No. People that know their things.
Explain this. How does this work? What build is this? Righteous Fire and Cyclone combined.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, right.
That's all you need. No, so you have inspiration support linked to whatever that spends mana. Let's say it's Cyclone. Okay. Anything else that has inspiration support linked to it gets the benefit from the inspiration support that Cyclone's linked to, right?
Yep.
So here I am thinking like the Spellslinger support kind of came out around the same time as inspiration support. And so because inspiration support and I played around a lot with it, needs to be linked to some sort of catalyst to be linked to other things into function. I just assumed Spellslinger support was the same way. So with Spellslinger, you have the wand attack, right? Like Power Siphon.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought you needed Spellslinger to be linked to the wand attack to then trigger with all the other wand attacks. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that you didn't need Spellslinger support, Spellslinger support didn't have to be linked to the wand attack. for Spellslinger to work with its other links.
Right.
So that saved me so much trouble, because what I'm trying to do with this build is I want there to be 3 relevant curses going all the time. And because I didn't want to use my 3/4 links as cast and damage taken, ball lightning, hex touch support, and the curse, like I don't also want to be vulnerable with no damage mitigation before that, because I'm using enfeeble and temporal change as my primary mitigation. This way, now what Tom suggested was, because now that I've realized I don't need Spellslinger support linked to the wand attack, I could just use the wand attack, hex touch, and 2 curses, right? So now I'm constantly cursing. I have my defense, blasphemy, all around me, but then I'm constantly cursing the other ones, and they always have 3, and it's made it amazing. I absolutely love it. It's gone from a close quarter combat build to a very far build, but Profane Bloom, which makes cursed enemies have a 25% chance to explode.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Now having that at range instead of super close, because this build used to be my Vortex build, so it's always been close quarter combat. And so now that it's ranged and my AWs are flying and everybody's getting cursed, even if they're outside my blasphemy range, and it's so easy. It's 1 button, and it doesn't require an insane amount of mana reservation nodes, just that one little, I guess 5 nodes, 1 in the top east and then the main major corner in the top west. But oh, so good. So thank you, Tom. One thing that really screwed up my theory crafting, though, and it took me a long time to actually see the validity of the build. Nowhere on the gem does Spellslinger say that the mana reservation percentage that it requires changes as it levels up. Nowhere on it doesn't say that. So it just says that it's going to reserve mana. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I put in at level 1 and I'm reserving a certain amount of mana. And then all of a sudden, as the gem levels, I'm reserving less and less and less mana. So when I'm in Path of Building, I'm obviously testing my build out with level 20 gems. And I'm like, okay, so this is how much mana I have. This is how much wiggle room I have. So I'm allocating the different things that are also going to reserve mana and such, my mana regen, according to that amount. So I slot in 2 level 1 Spellslinger supports, and I have no mana. I can't do anything. I had to level them both to level 17 before I could actually run my blasphemy with my Spellslinger links. And so it took a long time, and obviously that process was tedious, died a ton. So people that watch me are going to actually think that the build that I think is awesome really sucks, because my death count is through the roof. But boy, are they wrong. It is awesome, and it's going to be awesome, and I love it now that I have 3 curses. It was a busy week. 2 weeks just. It was a busy 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's funny because you're talking about Spellslinger. It was one of the things we chatted about, and I thought was a pretty heavy nerf to Spellslinger at the beginning of this league, because that mana reservation was changed. The way that mana reservation worked with Spellslinger was changed with 312, and that's why it's so harder.
Was it flat before?
So it used to be just 20% at all gem levels. Now it goes from 30% at gem level down to 25% at 20.
Why would you make it harder at the beginning?
In the beginning, I know. And the main reason that they did that was because it was incredibly popular to level with. It was very, very strong to level with Spellslinger, because you could do more so what you're talking about. And it was
cast like crazy. Yeah.
Yep. So it is so fun, though. I think this league was my first league playing with Spellslinger, and I loved it.
What did you do with Spellslinger?
I don't remember. If it was in our private league or what it was. I can't actually remember what I was playing with it, but I was like, what? I had no clue this is how it worked. It was fun.
You know what it is? You know what I feel like? I love the animations of the wand, because I've never used a wand attack before. I've always done minions. So I love the underhands that I'm playing the witch. So I love the underhand that she does. And then, there's like the overhand. She's like a tennis player just going, and it looks really cool, and I like it. But it also reminds me, like the sound effects, she reminds me of Homing Crystal Soul Mass from Dark Souls.
No, from Dark Souls, yeah.
You just shove your hand way up there and you get those gems all around you. Oh, it's awesome. Hey, did you watch White Christmas this holiday season?
I did watch A Christmas Carol. Thank you, everybody, for telling us that that's what it was. Somehow we forgot. Awesome movie.
Private messages, general chat. Yeah, we got in trouble for not
like
remembering.
Idiots. It's a Christmas Carol. And I don't
but at least we talked about Alistair Sims.
Yeah, we at least knew that part. And so you know what we're talking about. Come on.
Yeah.
Give us a break. We were excited for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch it. Why do you ask me?
Because it's my favorite Christmas movie, and I told you last time, and you didn't watch it. Thanks for everything.
That's not how we operate, Ty. Like, we're friends, but not that close.
I'll get you hooked. Okay, you can have Formula One then. I'll keep my White Christmas. You can have Formula One.
I forgot to tell you one thing about this week. Do you see this right here? I'm pointing to him to a light that's in the background. Do you notice? I don't know how well you can tell, but it's connected. It basically, it looks like almost like a Funko Pop style character, army character with a headlight from a tractor style as its head. And that's where the light is coming out from. This is the very first Kickstarter that I ever paid money for back in, I bought it in 2014 or 2015 and it just arrived.
It looks
We're
big.
talking like 6 years ago. It's called the Lampster. That's what it's called, the Lampster. It's about 18 inches, probably 18 inches tall. It is quite tall.
So it's like a superhero with a lamp face.
Yeah, and he's got like little outfit. I got like the one that got an outfit with him, and he's got like a little sash and boots and stuff. And it's cool. You can control with your phone. Literally the worst experience I've ever had working with a company to try and actually get what I paid a lot of money for. And then even so much so that in December of 2019, they said to me, okay, well, if you want it sooner, we can do rushed shipping for you, because there was no timeline for when it would get shipped still. We can do rush shipping to you if you want to pay the extra $40 American to get it rush shipping. I paid that in December of 2019. So in November or December of this year, I was like, hey, you guys are just like taking my money. How about you actually send me the product? And I just lost it on them. And then they finally sent it to me. And it did come with the very first piece of glass right here cracked. But thankfully they ship it with an additional one, like an extra. Anyway, it's very cool.
Did you give them a scathing review?
No, I don't care.
Yeah, you should. Other people are going to have that crappy experience.
No, there's enough people that already are, if you live in anywhere in North America, you probably don't have it because all they're shipping to is like European areas. And so Canada, America, anything in North America for the most part still has not gotten them. And they gave you this option to pay early or pay extra to get it. Like the thing was like, I want to say it was almost $200 American.
6 years.
Yes. I went on Kickstarter to look and I was like, yeah, around 2015, I bought this thing.
Wow.
Anyway, I forgot to tell you about that in my week. I did get it. It's cool, but it was stupid.
So this week in PoE, pretty awesome.
Oh, okay. There's a lot.
It's huge.
It was. And it's funny because this is the last week that we'll have before we get patch notes. So it's not like next week is going to be just a chill. Hey, D&D. When I say D&D, shut up.
Oh,
Stupid
it must be
phone.
a special someone.
No, it's not.
They're going to know now. Now they're going to know.
Yeah. So next week is going to be packed full of information. And we already have a week today where there's this week in PoE. So
yeah, this is like the last episode of the lull, right?
Before
because
the excitement.
Next week, we're going to be talking about the already announced 3.13 core harvest.
We'll at least know what the expansion is going to be.
We'll have already seen that ginormous billion-hour presentation they're planning on pathofexile on Twitch. And yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. And then the week after that, the league will have already started. So this is so our quick. Look how it flew. They postponed for a month and we're just talking like nonstop. Yep. Still have tons of notes that kept getting pushed back. So
it's true.
Anyway, and they gave us tons to talk about today.
So let's hit them up. We'll work our way through these. They gave you the Christmas mystery box.
Thanks, GGG. Merry Christmas to me.
I love that they do that.
Oh, so nice.
I hated my reward, but whatever.
I don't even remember it, so I probably didn't get one that I was impressed with. Yeah.
It was an aura that I already had. So it's cool to get an aura.
Oh, an aura.
It's just an aura I already had. I think the Nightshade aura or something.
That's fine. Now you don't have to swap out all the time.
I don't know if I can combine it because I think I have. I probably already. I don't know. Anyway, I got the aura. I just like that they do that anyway. Yeah. A freebie.
I put in here. GGG has a lot of their conversations just obscurely throughout the internet world. You know what I mean? They'll answer somebody, which is nice that they're answering, but it'll be an important answer that thousands of people would be interested in, as opposed to just one or two. You know what I mean? So it was nice for them to repost this or direct people to this, because I guess they're obviously getting a lot of questions from people that don't follow every word GGG says online. So it says, we're expecting Heist to become core Path of Exile content, but we recommend waiting until the 3.13 announcement on January 7th to find out. Relatively low numbers. Anyway, they retweeted it just to emphasize that it is going core. But I did like that they did that. A lot of the times they just leave it and let, other people answer for them. So it was cool.
So should we start jumping through some of these? Because it was all like, so they did the one which was a bit of a teaser.
Because they don't have the teaser section this time around, right? Because they're just blowing it all. They're blowing their load all on one day this time around. So they don't have the teaser section. But this one was one.
Do you want to read it or do you want me to?
You, because you like all this. You're a poet, Justin. You're a poet.
So I think it was was it written in the actual thing or they tweeted as well? But basically the text was, they sought novelties from far and wide at her insistence, never satisfying her curiosity, her lust for conflict and contest. Again, just like the other ones, I was like, cool.
She is insatiable for whatever it is she's looking for. And these were uniques that they were looking for, and they looked cool. They did not obviously say what they were, but the uniques looked really cool.
I think I saw on their tweet, Kit and Cat Noodle say something about the fact that she thought it was leaning more and more towards Calandra, like you had mentioned.
Oh, cool.
So, and as someone who has no clue about lore at all, I'm like, well, I'll take that as more real than Tyler telling me. Now, looking at the uniques, though, I don't like this.
Look at the gloves.
I don't care.
They look rad. They have like red streaks.
What the frick is happening? Well, there's two gloves. First off, the feet look, at least the top left feet, like that animal needs to get trimmed.
They need to get their nails trimmed. Yeah.
All of the stuff, I'm more curious about the little orb looking things in the middle. I want to know what those are. I don't care about the unique items themselves because I don't tend to build around something maybe until the end of the league.
What if they're trinkets that aren't specific to the Heist core mechanic?
I don't think so.
I hope so. I hope trinkets aren't going to be league specific, but they're going to be global like every other item.
I don't. I kind of like it being related to Heist.
That's such a waste. Then it's like, okay, then I'm going to have a separate amulet slot just for Blight. Get out of here. No, you can't start that hole. That's a crazy hole. That means Heist has to be a major part of the entire game.
No, it doesn't. It means it just needs to be a thing.
Ugh.
It has no effect on anything but Heist, so it's fine. It would be different if the Heist-based amulet also affected you outside of Heist. Then I would have an issue if Heist was the only way to get that amulet, but it has no effect on anything but Heist. Pretend it's not there. In fact, you won't even know it's there until you get a trinket.
Right.
So who cares?
But then you're just going to be like, oh, wow, I only do Heist sometimes, and I have this thing that's only useful sometimes.
So
it sucks.
Anyway, I don't think those are trinkets. I hope they don't change it. But of all of the stuff in this one, I'm more curious about what those little things are in the middle. What did you think of them? Like when there's nothing else, there's no information at all. I'm like, oh, okay.
I like the text. That's it.
Do you read that and go, okay,
oh, yeah, I love it.
This gives me some.
No, it doesn't give me anything.
Okay, you just like the excitement of it?
Yeah, I don't know anything about the lore, so there's nothing for me to piece together, but I'm like, oh, that's neat. Oh, she's interesting.
That's gotta mean something.
I hope she's really hard to kill. And I like that kind of stuff. And then I try and like my imagination goes when I see the types of unique pictures that go with it that didn't satisfy her insatiability. So I like it. But they had some cool 3.13 details announced too. Well, not like anything new, but...
You mean the announcement?
Yeah, they gave the announcement of the announcement, which I absolutely love. What to expect on January 7th for the 3.13 announcement. And they said this time around, they're going to go through everything really slow. Well, first off, it'll be January 7th, 11 a.m. our time, PST, West Coast North America time. So whatever time that is for you, but I'm excited about that. They said they're going to go through everything slowly. Now, as an example, they said, For gems, we're going to show each one in action along with its tooltip and an explanation of its mechanic.
Wouldn't it have been funny if they did this last league with all of the added?
Add 600 new gems.
It's like a month-long live stream.
So with this one, it's almost exactly the same, except...
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's exciting.
I think it'll be neat because what it seems to be, this is a quote from them. It says, Players have often asked for a look at the type of material we cover on expansion press tours with journalists. So we're quite interested to see what you think of us presenting the new expansion to you directly in this way. So it's like...
There's no chance people don't love this way more.
Oh, 100%.
I don't think this should come as any shock that people would way more prefer to get something direct from GGG than for us to just get an announcement and read about things that are written by other third parties.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool that they'll basically be giving us the journalist explanation of how everything goes. And then they're going to have the Q&A afterwards. I think it was with Ziggy. Yeah. And then it'll go on for a little bit more, of course. So anyway, that was pretty cool. I'm excited for it. They're doing a good job hyping their hype. And
they're also, on top of that, encouraging streamers to restream it, which is really cool.
Very.
And so much so that Twitch drops will actually work even for streamers restreaming it, which that to me is pretty crazy. I think that's awesome.
How do you stream someone else's stream? Just by hosting?
I have a freaking clue.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not my thing. I don't stream. I just read the words.
Now, did you read? There was very well written, very funny. It was written almost in the way that they talk, but there was a post on how patch notes get made. Did you read it?
I did. It was awesome. Written by Nick.
Nick was really freaking funny. If he ever hears this, I love how you write. And so anyway, that was kind of cool, right?
Yeah, I thought it was great. It was written in a way that was amusing to read, but also you felt for him. Like I read it and was like, oh my God, that sounds like hell.
But you get the real life perspective of it. You know, you get why people like his coworkers shouldn't revolve around him for what he needs to do, but you get why it's nice if they can. You get, you know, like any criticisms a fan might have towards incorrect or missing patch notes things. It kind of gives a fan more understanding, right? Less expectation and more appreciation for the work.
I like that he showed the screenshot of sort of what he has to comb through.
Cool?
I actually read through it hoping there was like something funny in there, but there wasn't.
Yeah.
But then my favorite line of the whole thing was him saying, the people who work at GGG are very smart and skilled, and I like them a lot. That's my favorite part right there is I like them a lot. They're absolutely god awful at writing comment notes.
Yeah.
I think that was so funny. But yeah, the whole thing was really cool. It's interesting how he goes through and what he has to do.
Yeah. And then I think he called one of his other employees how do you pronounce the word? A masochist?
Masochist.
Yeah, a masochist. And Talia, I think it was.
No, it's cool.
Funny.
I think it was well written. It was fun to read.
I think it's an important read too for people if you're ever up for it. And it was pretty cool. Then they came out. Now, they came out with something called A Brief History of the Atlas Lore. Now, it's done from like someone that works for GGG's opinion of how that lore integrated. It wasn't like actually just debriefing the lore and explaining it to you or paraphrasing the lore to you, but it was their opinion on how the lore functioned. You know what I mean?
Right. It's written from the point of view of Nick again, the narrative designer. And what's interesting is it's not a lore explanation in the sense of like walking you through the story. It's more this overarching theme to the different, you know, Atlas of the Worlds, War of the Atlas, and then Conquerors of the Atlas. And what their sort of, I don't know, their arcing theme that sort of happened. And then also he kind of ties that into what he wanted to improve with Conquerors. Because the storyline that you kind of see with Conquerors, and we've talked about it, it's lacking a bit. And when you compare it to Shaper and Elder.
Yeah. And it was cool to hear that his personal opinion was he liked the older ones, the Shaper, Elder, and Shaper and Elder versions and how they integrated that storyline better than how Conquerors are. And he felt that they were kind of flat and it was too structured. It was less surprisey, I guess you could say. It just wasn't very powerful, I guess. And so it was kind of neat because so they talked about all the pros and cons with it. And then he goes and says, with all of the previous now 3 Atlas expansions in mind. In 3.13, we're looking to achieve these next following goals. So they want to introduce an ominous. We want to reintroduce some of the ominousness that came with the Eldritch feel of the Shaper and Elder, and we also want to inject more story into the regular mapping and give some unpredictability to it, which I think is cool because there really isn't a lot of story currently as you go through. It's like, oh, we found the guy, we know where his hideout is, and you go and kill him, and you already hate the boss because you have to talk to Kirik. You know what I mean?
It was, and he mentions it a little bit, but one of my favorite things when Atlas of the Worlds came out, which was I think 3.0, was you were introduced to Shaper, but where you were building out your map randomly as you're fighting a boss, the whole thing would freeze and it'd go this really crazy black, dark theme as the Shaper would float around you and have some saying about like how pathetic you were, and you know.
Yeah.
I just loved that. It was such a crazy thing, and then it just disappeared. That there was just nothing with that anymore.
The Delirium guy did the same kind of thing, which you really like. You like that influx of condescending lore.
Yep, and Conquerors just didn't have any of that. My hope. Well, so I have a couple things. I know you have a couple more comments. I just want to throw this out here real quick because I haven't actually read any of your notes. I clearly did not sound like Cyrus is going anywhere. It sounded, in fact, like they were just going to be building up the story to explain Cyrus's story a bit more. And my hope is that the Conquerors, the whole process of the Conquerors in the Atlas shifts away from this dumb, do this 3 times, then do this 4 times, then whatever. I really do like the idea of it being, like he said, where you were more caught off guard a little bit when Elder and stuff would happen.
No, I love the Conqueror fights, and I actually like the Conqueror progression by someone who, even though I wish I didn't, I do skip through all the lore stuff. I like the setup of the current Atlas with the exception of Cyrus. Like if the whole battle and just that really long progression of going through the maps to earn your final boss battle got you a different boss, this would be such a better endgame expansion than we currently have. Like you said, I don't like the unpredictability of, oh, you need to do 5 maps to reach your Cyrus quota, or, oh, you need to do 9 maps. I wish that was static. I wish that made sense. I'm fine if it's the big number. Like, I want a greater chance at getting influenced items, not a lesser chance. At the same time, I'd be fine if it was a lower number, if you only had to do 5, because it's nice to reset the neighborhood. Is that what it's called? Region that you're playing in, and do different maps. So I just hate everything to do with Cyrus. From a lore perspective, I'm not into this at all. I don't care about the story of each of the Conquerors, unfortunately.
I would love to know more story and background to them, but I also, more than that, want to see the Cyrus fight fixed. So learning the lore, I think, would be cool, because it was pretty cool to find out that the Shaper was Xana's father. And, you know, like the first time you're going through that kind of stuff, that was really cool.
In that part of the story, I loved that part. Yeah, I was actually really disappointed when I found out via someone's stream as opposed to on my own. I was like, oh, but like that's how into it I was. But this story,
yeah, I'm not connected at all. But that could change. I actually think that there's a potential for that to change if there is something storyline related. Like Cyrus makes 0 sense to me from a lore side. I don't know. He's supposed to be just some random exile who was caught in the Atlas. So
doing the ceiling. Yeah.
I don't get that part. But yeah, I was reading this going, okay, so I don't think Cyrus is changing as the potential still endgame boss, which is I am fine if the fight is fixed or better. And I know there's people that disagree with us. Some people will think that the Cyrus fight is great. Totally fine. Everybody's open to their own opinion. I just don't like it.
I think it's dumb too. Off-screen shots, stupid. Storms, stupid. Long moments of invulnerability in a game where you have an insane amount of different mechanics that are based on duration.
Yeah.
Dumb. No ads.
And the other Conqueror fights are actually better than
100%.
Than Cyrus, yeah. And I don't even like some of them, but they're definitely better than the Cyrus fight. So
I agree. So they said, with the above in mind, right? All this stuff that they were mentioning. 3.13, we're looking to achieve better ominousness, like the Shaper and Elder had, and more unpredictability like the Shaper had. We want to address some of the omissions and gaps in the Conquerors of the Atlas storyline and build upon what's already there. So kind of like what you're saying. Although it's important to note that the new storyline exists in addition and parallel to the current Atlas content. So there it is. Looks like it's just like a brand new section in a way. And finally, we want to provide narrative hooks for the future. This means that some of your questions this go around aren't going to be answered lore-wise, but if you're a fan of speculating, you won't be disappointed. So anyway, I thought that was really cool. I liked it. Have you ever seen GGG do like a lore update before?
I have no idea. It's not something I would have ever paid attention to.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's like, I wonder if there was an outcry, if there is that much of a complaint, the end game for even like the more professional players, right? Because even though we play it a lot, we're casual.
I don't think so at all. I think it may be, okay, maybe there's an inkling and maybe they've had like a long to-do list and that was one of them. They just have the benefit of they've had an extra month. So
they're adding
so you get
extra content.
Yeah, this is maybe something they've wanted to do, but it just didn't fit into the timeline. And now
you're talking
like,
the post?
Yeah, and putting together just this thing, right? You know, like they have there, I would imagine there's some extra time leading up to 3.13 that they would not normally have had with a launch being a month ago.
Gotcha.
And then they did their Happy New Year, a 2020 retrospective, which was basically them breaking down their 2020 year. It was cool. My favorite part out of all of them, and I know I haven't checked your notes, so I don't know what you've got, but my favorite one was we improved the Steam patching process. Best fix of 2020. Best part of 2020.
And the general patching process too. So now it's super fast.
Well,
that's
what I'm talking about. The whole thing, the fact that it patches right away, it doesn't need to allocate for a day.
I included that in here for you.
Did you? Okay, good. It was the best part.
You betcha. Yeah. They added stash folders and stash affinities. I know that might not seem like big news now, but in 3 years, this is the year they did it. So that's kind of cool. They did release Vulcan back in the day. That was at the beginning of the year. So that's kind of neat. They won the 2020 BAFTA award for the evolving game section, which is pretty sweet.
Who could ever beat them in the evolving game section? Literally
the only way
Minecraft?
that they lose every year is that people are just bored of voting for the same person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm very impressed. They had 7.5 million players playing PoE on the international realm, which is pretty sweet. Check this out. This one I actually liked because I did the math per day. They did 90 updates this year, 90 patches. Do you know how that's one patch every 4 days?
Wow.
Like I know, once, League slows down, you're getting to a patch a week, a patch once every 2 weeks. But at the beginning of the league, it's obviously busier. But think about it. What other game gets a patch once every 4 days? That's crazy. I think that's awesome. That's really cool. And they also had, what else? They released, might be one of the first times since they started their normal schedule that they've only released 3 leagues instead of 4, right? They had Delirium. Seems so long ago, Delirium. Harvest and Heist. All huge. Hey, like all very game-breaking mechanics. They added cluster jewels this year. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. They're completely changing, and they probably knew this the second they incorporated it just as a league. They're completely changing crafting with Harvest. That's crazy. They added trinkets and this whole heist thing that they're adding into the core game. Like, those are huge leagues compared to other things. It's not just like, well, we like this mechanic and we're throwing it in 10%. Like, those are ginormous changes in a game. Yeah, and then you combine all of that with the fact that like everyone else in the entire world, they're combating COVID. They're working from home. They're, everybody, it's not just like a few that are dealing with this. Like their entire company had to shift how they operated. So to be able to have this as your 2020, checklist of things you did while also going through that is really impressive. Yeah. They reminded everyone, which I'm glad they did, Harvest and Heist were basically made from home. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. Yep. Despite all the things like the gaps or the holes or the, like bosses coming out later type of stuff. That's a really important thing to remember. And I'm very impressed with them. Well, and with 3.13 too. Whenever 3.13 comes out, entirely made. I mean, they'd have a little bit of time, but
I remember from our conversation with Camille, and I've spoken to him a bit since too, they've constantly been back and forth between whether they can or cannot be in the office. So that's pretty awesome.
And despite all that they've been working on from home, they've been continuing to work on Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile Mobile. Yeah, they threw it in. And there's going to be lots more news on these projects coming up in 2021. So that's awesome. I did see something from the GGG community team account on Reddit that said PoE Mobile is still in development, although we currently don't have a timeline for the release yet. It's probably just going to come around the same time as PoE 2.
Cool.
So that was kind of cool for the 3 other people like me that are just as excited for PoE Mobile as they are for PoE 2. What a week, hey? This week in PoE.
It's kind of fun because it wasn't anything that was content related. It wasn't like league stuff that we'll definitely be getting into big time next week. But yet it was still a crap load of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any other feelings towards 3.13 after you've read the little bit of stuff we've had? The only thing I know now, it's probably not PoE 2.
Yeah, probably.
I feel
even
like
though
it's a
they've come
pretty
out
good
flat
chance
out
now.
said they're not. It's not PoE 2. Justin's like,
they've lied before.
You're saying there's a chance.
They're tricking us.
So let's see here, though. Like, are you talking like 3.13 core? Are you talking 3.13 league, or just everything that's coming in 3.13?
Just do you have anything that you're kind of hoping to see or expectations for 3.13?
I hope it's simple. The league mechanic, not the core. I hope the Cyrus fight, if the Cyrus fight doesn't change, which I don't think it would, though I want it to. If the Cyrus fight doesn't change, I hope it's not the center of the new core end game additions they're making. You know what I mean? Like, I hope it doesn't revolve around the Cyrus fight. I hope it's something that just enhances the entire experience or makes the process towards that crappy fight better, even though I like the process now. I think the thing I'm most excited for, though, are the new crafting is going to be core. Like the last time they changed crafting was with Jun, right? They let all those syndicate crafting mods get added to your crafting bench, and that dramatically changed crafting. Before that, crafting hadn't changed. It was like, besides some minor additions that they might add in terms of mods, crafting was the same. They had, what was it? Crafting was, you had to go to each individual master that had their individual crafting bench. And I remember as a new player, like, wait, do I have to go to Katarina for this mod?
Even
or
as an
Elrion?
experienced player, I always forgot.
Yeah, and you couldn't remember. And then they accumulated it all into one crafting bench. And that was when Syndicate came out, right? With Jun. I think that was when they did it, or maybe they did it 3.3. I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway, when they added that was like their big crafting change. Now, without knowing what Harvest is, Harvest was dramatic. And so with them adding Harvest crafting to the core of PoE, I'm really excited to see what that is, because that's like a permanent change. If you started playing, like we have 4 of our dearest people in our lives playing PoE for the first time today. If they ever touched the crafting bench, they'd be like, wow, that's really cool. You know, they'd never know. And so now you're getting to like that next stage. You know, they're growing up. The crafting bench is growing up one more stage with Harvest. So I'm excited for that. And then all the heist stuff. Like we're talking literally all, as far as we know, GGG said that heist is actually going to have very few changes to it. And they're talking about heist changes, I'm assuming, not the content. So we're talking about alternate gems are, as far as I know, a permanent thing in PoE now. These alternate base types are a permanent thing. You can now literally plan around getting them, long-term, short-term. Like all the crazy uniques, whatever they were called, like alternate gem qualities. I love it. Oh, the zombie ones. So
you didn't think that they would take that out, did you? That's so much work. I mean, I get it. They will take something out if it just flat out doesn't work, but that was a massive amount of work.
I never thought they would, but there's always the fear that for some reason it's not going to work with the future. Now, I've always been under the impression that all these leagues and league mechanics were basically testing the yeses and the nos for PoE 2.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, so, but I think those are the things that I'm most excited about. I don't know, like the 3.13, like that whole like Atlas wheel mini boss battle area, it looked like, I don't know, it looked like mini games. You know what I mean? It looks like Einhart fights on steroids. That looks kind of cool. Give me something long term to do permanently, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
How about you? Any hopes and dreams for 3.13?
No, I'm just excited to see it. I'm excited to something new endgame. Some change to endgame. That's what I'm excited for.
I am surprised how stale I find this. Like, I was always apathetic to lore, even though I never wanted to be. I was just too excited to get in and start killing stuff. But I was still very interested, despite the fact that I was skipping through stuff. I was still very interested in the Shaper Elder lore, and I'm very disinterested in this one.
Mm-hmm. They did such a good job of interacting it with so many times when you were doing maps. Like, it was really well built into the end game for Shaper and Elder. Yeah. I don't really find it with Conquerors. Not only that, one thing that bugs me with Conquerors, and I think they're going to be shifting and doing better with explaining the story, but I actually tried in the beginning to read their books. You know, when you would kill the Conquerors and they had their books?
The 4 different stages they have. Yeah.
Right. But the fact that it didn't continue to play when I left, I was like, well, I'm not going to sit here and wait for it to play through. Yeah, some of the things they'll play through a friggin' load. It's amazing. But this, they were like, nah, you got to stay in this room.
I wish every single one did that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Every single one. And oh my goodness, like, don't get me started on new player stuff, but if there was a log for everything you clicked on, you could go back and read anytime you want.
Yeah.
Like, how many games, how many RPGs have you played where you have that log of things you've read or done? And wouldn't that be great? Like a clickable lore log where, okay, this is what you've done. The Act 1, here's all your lore stuff. Act 2, here's all your lore stuff. Like, it's not like it's Dark Souls where lore is actually on the inscriptions of every item and you have to find the item to pass to figure out what's going on. But if you had just a lore section, here's Act 1, here's about Merveille, this is what Merveille said. This is like one thing that I've been trying to get into lore as this delay has gone on for 3.13, I've been finding it very surprising. Outside of fan-made stuff, there isn't a legit section. Like, the wiki doesn't have anywhere near as much as I'd hoped. A lot of League stuff is missing. I'm surprised that GGG, with all the effort they put into lore, doesn't have something so that people can actually know and care about their lore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many other gaming companies have websites where this is what happened here, this is what happened here, in case you missed it, this is here. Like, you go to The Witcher, you go, so many different websites actually tell you, like, this is your lore, we're excited about this, we want you to know. I wish GGG did that. I really wish they did. Not to take anything away from the fan-made stuff, but I want it.
Did you have a favorite part of PoE in 2020? Maybe a favorite league or a favorite thing? If you had to pick one Path of Exile related favorite thing in 2020, what would it be?
This is a long silence and a good question. I liked Delirium content, but I didn't like it because that was the first league with the new Conqueror system. And the Conqueror, it really needed to get tweaked. Like, the end game was it was way too unbalanced in terms of damage and the influence types and the shotgun damage. And then it was just like, it wasn't a good league. It wasn't well balanced until the next league. So Delirium didn't stand out to me, but I love the concept of cluster jewels. To me, that is just awesome. What was next? Harvest. That wasn't a good co-op one. We couldn't really play co-op well, which is one thing that really excited us for Heist. I loved all the crafting. It was very disappointing to see how divided it made the community as opposed to just appreciative of how everybody was playing. But I really liked the crafting, the solo self-found aspect. I think the encouragement, yeah, I think that would be it. Now that I reflect on all 3 leagues, I think as a solo self-found player, seeing a huge global interest in solo self-found and slower crafting, like taking the time to sit there and think. And the slow part of the game wasn't the combat, but it was staring at your screen and being like, should I do this or should I do that? I hated the garden. Like, I hated dealing with that. I hated that was a part of needing to do something, all that micromanagement, but I loved what it brought to the community. So I think that solo self-found encouragement. How about you? What was your favorite part of PoE 2020?
Probably the podcast.
That's not fair.
Yep, it's the podcast because I care about the people listening. Ty, okay.
Oh, you're making me sound like such a prick.
You kind of are. No, it actually was. It probably was my favorite part about Path of Exile. The leagues, I liked all of them. Delirium, the person voicing and the stuff that was being said made Delirium amazing, and then Cluster Jewels was awesome. There were parts of Delirium I hated, but it was a cool league. I really liked Harvest.
Oh wait, Delirium was the second league of the New Conquerors. But anyway,
I'm just listening. I'm just going off the ones you were talking about. Harvest was fine. I liked Harvest. I know a lot of people didn't like Harvest. It was fine. It was one of those ones where it was fun when you got it set up, and then I never would have wanted to do it again. And then Heist to me was a blast. I had a good time in it. I really had a lot of fun in all of our private leagues that we did in 2020, which was all of them with Forever Exiled. That was a lot of fun. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So we're going to be heading into After Dark pretty soon. We got some people joining us, which is going to be a lot of fun talking to them. Both of our wives and two buddies are going to join. Well, maybe one or two buddies are going to join us for After Dark to have some conversations about Path of Exile as a new player and just chat in general. But you had some quick observations from a new player perspective.
You can remove the word quick from that.
Quick in this. In After Dark, you can go into detail into your notes.
No, I'm not going to bring this up into After Dark at all because I want to hear what they thought about
all right,
PoE from a first-time experience. I don't want them to hear about
You're not reading through 4 pages.
It's 1.5, and I am going to
shorten it.
So, but it's not, they're not. So here's some things so I'm watching my wife play, and I intentionally, and I'm like, dear, for science, I'm going to help you as little as possible. Have a good time. Now, she's an RPG player. She knows her stuff. We normally play on console, but that's not really a big deal. And I was watching, Chris was broadcasting for a bit as well, so I got to see how he was struggling or not and enjoying certain aspects of it and some of the questions they were asking. And of course, right, when you're trying to make a game for new people, you're not just making, your whole game's designed around people that are going to like the experience, but your introduction into the game isn't for people that already know what Path of Exile is, right? You have a free-to-play game, which means you're trying to attract a lot more people. You're trying to hook people as soon as they're in. Not knowing what to do isn't a good way to do it. So right off the bat, my wife asks, is a character choice important?
Yeah, no information.
Right. You have nothing. And it is absurdly it's the most important decision you make in the whole game. It determines where you start on the tree. It determines your 3 class options. What are the ascendancy classes? Right off the bat, without knowing anything.
Yeah, they don't even give you a breakdown of more towards a caster. This is more. Nothing.
They have a little bit of a blurb, but in PoE,
isn't it a blurb just about the character?
Right.
Yeah.
But so even though the witch does start with a lot of casting stuff, PoE, when my wife asked, she's like, so do I have to do spells and magic, or can I do whatever I want? I'm like, you can literally do anything you want with anything. PoE is all about doing anything you want with your character, no matter who you start with. And her face just shone. She was like, whoa, that's awesome. But it's crazy that there isn't as a starting class, right? And one thing I really loved, especially when I saw how overwhelming the game can be right off the bat, when GGG says, okay, here's 6 gems for you to pick after completing this quest. That's a very small amount of gems, and it's such a good idea to do that because it's already a lot of reading. To know what gem you're picking, you're already reading so much. So, to have a blurb as to what your experience is going to be if you follow blindly the quest line and what gems are offered you, I think would be a really good idea. So anyway, yeah, she asked, is a character choice important? Yes, it is. And they don't help you with that. Does it tell you anything? I don't know what that means.
It's your own freaking notes.
Yes, it is.
All right, next.
My wife said, you know what? It would be awesome if they had a random name generator. Because you can't, you're competing with hundreds of thousands of names, millions of names. And it's okay, well, I can't, it's a permanent name. You can't change it. But having a random name generator would be pretty cool. I'm like, actually, that's true. A lot of games have that. A lot of games. And they don't. Especially when you, can't have the same name as someone else. Global chat's enabled by default. And they don't tell you how to bring up chat. So right off the bat, it's like red text. Hi world, talking about market price, talking about this.
Did she not create an account under yours? Did she not create a character under your account?
No, I wanted the science feel, Justin.
Oh, so you made a whole new account.
Logged in. Oh yeah, she started her own Streamlabs thing. She started her own Steam account. Oh yeah, you bet your
Because my wife's was under mine, and so it's connected to 2021 or 2121. So there was just very little.
Arcane Surge is the first support you get as a witch.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tricky one to understand if you've never touched PoE. Like, I was thinking about that. Like, sure, it's helpful. It gives you mana regen and spell damage, but that is a really hard one to understand if you have never played this game before. And I was thinking, like, they should probably put simple skills in there and leave the complex ones for later, or at least just as vendor only, because Arcane Surge, after you spend a certain amount of mana, you get a buff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is me paraphrasing it. After you spend a certain amount of mana, you get a buff. That buff gives you mana regen and spell damage, and it lasts only for a certain amount of time. And the spell doesn't tell you that if you level up the spell, you need to spend more mana to get the buff. Like, there's nothing that tells you that the spell, what changes when you level it up.
Yeah, I've always thought with any skill, support or not, that it should show you what's going to change besides the level requirement.
And they don't tell you about mana flasks. Like, they tell you about health flasks, but then they don't tell you about mana flasks. And it wasn't until after the Hillock fight that I pointed out that the mana flasks you can use as well. But a lot of the times, because you're not even paying attention to mana, there's no mention to mana and mana expenditure, right? So they give you your spell or your attack, whatever it is, and it's just there. All of a sudden you can't cast it anymore, and they don't say anything about it. If you've played the game before and you know about it, sure, but they don't do that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And one thing that I was really surprised with both people that I was watching that played, there's a default attack for every character and every player. And what's the point of it? Like, it's to give you some sort of damage, I guess, at some point. But both people that I was watching used it a lot.
Oh, really?
Used it a lot. There wasn't any information as to, hey, when you can switch this out to move only.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Your left click. There wasn't any information about how to switch your skill binds,
sure,
which is very important to enjoying the game. My wife was like already 6-buttoning it. Every single active spell she had, she was ready to go. It was like cast. So yeah, I was quite surprised because the game is much more enjoyable when you just want to move and you don't want to attack. But as a new player, you don't know all of your options yet, right? And they also default you with having gem sockets not displayed until you hover over it, as opposed to being permanently displayed.
And I have not seen the game with like the from scratch default settings at all.
So let's see what else. Oh yeah, so as a witch, she's starting off as spells for the most part, right? But then all of a sudden, there's an attack or two in there, and I forget if it was power siphon or for whatever it was.
There's an attack projectile one. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, there is. And she's adding it there. She thinks it's awesome. It looks really cool and it hits hard. So she's going through and using it. She doesn't know that all of her increased spell damage nodes don't work for that. That's not a spell. She thinks like it's an RPG. You're a witch. You're casting. She doesn't have anything attack or accuracy based at all at the beginning. So she's looking at spell damage and this. She doesn't know that an attack is a specific term. She doesn't know that spell is, you know what I mean? So she's thinking that her spell damage is working for this attack, this wand attack. So there really is no explanation for that. Now, I get you don't want to overload the player with stuff, but what you provide, if you want to limit how much tutorialing you're doing to someone, it's what you provide them prevents them from doing too much reading, you know what I mean? So giving those wand attacks that don't benefit from anything that you have, like even the very first spell, the very first thing you get, what's it called? Arcane Surge. The very first support you get doesn't work with the wand attack, and they give you a wand attack really early if you want. So stuff like that. Like I'm really starting to see how there's like a real disconnect between a brand new player actually understanding what they're doing. I do like some of the blindness though. Like when you get your passive tree, it's just like figure it out, you'll be fine. But there's not even an explanation to what attributes are. Like right off the bat, it's like 10 intelligence. You're like,
sweet.
Hey Ty, what does intelligence do?
Well, it does actually tell you what intelligence does, but it doesn't tell you where to go and find it, because you can mouse over top of it in the character HUD and it will actually tell you what each point of intelligence, strength, and dex does. But yes, you would have to know to do that.
Right. And there's not one part of the tutorial that tells you that there's a character HUD.
I know. My wife was like, what level am I? I'm like, just hit C.
Right. Yeah, that's right. But I'm like, hit the menu button, see if there's anything in there. Because there's that menu button that brings up options, passive tree. And that's actually a good one. But there's not even a tutorial arrow that points you to the menu button. Right? There's nothing. And only by chance did she realize when she hovered over the thin XP bar that she could see her character numbers. But she's like, well, okay, but I need 25 strength for this chest piece. She doesn't know it's a useless chest piece, but she's like, I need 25 strength for this, and it has 3 sockets. Like, how do I see how much strength I have? She like nothing's telling her to go to the character screen. So so there was I mean, I'm only halfway down my list here.
Roll your ball.
Yeah. The map was really zoomed in. Who cares about that? They can change that when they figure that out. Yeah, so like even like going back to the attack versus spell stuff, she picks up a ring that gives her increased attack damage. She's like, sweet, now I'm doing more damage. And in my head, I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah, I know. The iron rings everywhere.
There wasn't anything telling them how to actually use a wisdom scroll. Like with their insistence on using a scroll of wisdom, you have to actually go to the item
mouse over top of it and then
to see what it is, as opposed to like, wow, I really like this item. Oh, it's unidentified.
I can't use it. How come?
But I'm serious. Like that sounds stupid to us, but it's not. If you want new players that have never heard of your game to play your game, you got to give them the basics. And there's a reason that we can turn off skip tutorials. We're not going to, as players that have played thousands of hours, like the tutorials. It's people that need it. And there's nothing that shows them how to compare their gear at all. You can hold Alt if you want, but you can't hold Alt with items that are on the ground. You can only hold Alt with items that are in your inventory. And there's nothing telling them to hold Alt or even Control click, because vendoring was a long process until I told about the Control click. And what else? Oh, okay, this one you're going to laugh at, but the filter progression, I'm baffled. I'm always baffled at GGG's like filter. That's it. There's one filter.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off with none. You could change it to default. That's it. Like there's nothing that's telling them about like you can change your filter. They don't have like, a filter strictness built in. To me, that is such a new player friendly thing to do if you want. Oh my,
I disagree.
That one. No, but even showing that there is a filter option.
The thing is, almost every other game that does have a filter doesn't walk you through that part. That's something you figure out as you play it more. I'm not disagreeing with you on the fact that there's just too much crap. So knowing that there's a filter would be nice. But most other RPGs I've played that have the ability to filter it definitely do not walk your hand through it and say, hey, here's where you can go to filter your stuff.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I
think even just pointing it out would be nice, but I guess, yeah, when you want it to, you'll probably start looking through the options at some point.
Yeah.
You know what was really surprising? There's nothing saying, hey, put your stuff here.
Like stash?
She doesn't know she has a stash.
Yeah, my wife had everything in her inventory.
Yeah, my wife's carrying everything with her too. And she's like, please tell me you can improve your stash. Like, because she's thinking you have to, like, please tell me you have to improve your inventory.
Right.
And, because, in other games, like you can improve your backpack, you can buy another backpack and it improves your stash space. I'm like, no, your character inventory stays the same. And she was floored by that, but I didn't tell her about the stash.
Our wives had very different experiences.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Yeah. And let's see. Despite all the stuff that I wish that they showed new people, it is a lot to read. Like there was a few times when Erin was deciding between gems after a quest reward. And she's just like, I wasn't even reading for the last 2 minutes. Hang on a second. She'd go back and read again. And like, there's no other way to change that. But you do have to give people vital information that they do need and couple it with.
Yeah, like even saying like, hey, if you don't pick one of these, you can just go and buy it.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Because otherwise you feel like it's like a life or death. Like, well, what if I pick the wrong one? Yeah,
you think you're making a big decision. That's right. Yeah, like, hey, don't worry about it. Here's one for free. Buy the rest for cheap whenever you feel like playing with them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a pretty it was really fun to watch her play and see it through a new person's eyes, comparing all the gear.
Yeah.
Literally every single piece of gear. The inventory was always full. And she wants like, you know, a red or green arrow pointing up or down if, you know, to help compare.
Sure. You see that in every other game, but yeah, not in PoE.
You do. And there are a lot of factors that determine if something is better or worse. So it doesn't really
work in
suit
PoE,
this
but
game.
yeah, I can see why you'd look for it.
But yeah, definitely. So there was a lot of like, well, why would I want 9% with 7 armor and, you know, or, you know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of questions that, of course, none of those are going to get answered right away. But yeah. And like, can I cast with a scepter? You know, like just the little questions. Like she thought she was stuck with the wand for a long, long time. So some of that stuff you just kind of play with and explore with, and that's kind of the fun of PoE. But on PC, this isn't really an issue because you have to have a button combination on console. But on PC, it was a bigger issue. My wife was playing with nothing showing up. She'd accidentally hit Z or it was on by default.
Oh, she would have hit it by accident. Yeah, that would be bad.
And there is nothing. That is a huge thing. If you say, hey,
you would see it appear for a second, but then it would instantly disappear.
Right. Like only when you hover it with your mouse. And she was playing the whole first act. I'm like, what's going on? Like, this is really filtering stuff. Like, have I been complaining about a crappy filter that's actually great? And I realized that she just hit Z. Yeah. Like there was no waypoint logo or anything. There was nothing in the game saying, hey, just in case you think nothing's dropping, hit Z. Like I was really surprised by that. So I'm glad that I was there to help her with it. Otherwise she'd have nothing.
This game's stupid.
But yeah, there was nothing telling her how to bind anything. And Chris, when he was playing, the primary pickup button is A or X, whatever it is on PlayStation. It's A. That's your primary pickup button. But they also make that your default attack button.
Well, so you're just picking up everything.
Sure. And like, I couldn't imagine, like, you got to tell people how to rebind their stuff if that's a big part of the game, especially if you're doing that on console. So anyway, it was, and there's already a continuity error. They talk about things being connected, like in the description, the gray text that tells you how stuff works.
Okay.
GGG doesn't use the term linked. They use connected. And Aaron's like, is connected and linked the same thing? I'm like, yes, it is. But everywhere else in the game, they say linked, but in the gem descriptions, it says it needs to be connected. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, there was a lot of like questions that I'm like, I have no idea how you would figure this out unless you loved the game before you ever played it. I have no idea why you would give the game that much time to figure out so many basics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do agree with you, but I also disagree because I know that when I started playing it, and even when you started playing it, I mean, you started playing when I was playing, but I didn't. There was nothing. There was literally nothing. So yeah, if it's the type of game that you enjoy, then you'll spend some time probably doing some research and reading. And I don't think I have a huge problem with that, but I know that that's probably not the direction they want to go. I feel like you're going to see in PoE 2 a very big difference in how they walk the new player through.
I hope.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, though, if in PoE 1, if you go to like the Chinese realm, it is day and night difference with how a new player experiences the game coming in. So I'm
glad you brought that up.
Entirely sure why they don't just do that on the North American. I honestly don't know. I assume there has to be a reason, but it does definitely seem more conducive to a new player to have your handheld in a game that's just as big as it is.
It lets you follow an archetype where you can like, this is the build. Here's the next node to pick. These are the skills you want to pick from your tree. Like that would be amazing for new players here. Shoot, you said something what were you talking about?
That I didn't know before a whole lot when I started playing.
Oh, right. How I started, though, was I was introduced to the game by you. I played it, and then I didn't play it for a while. I didn't play it for over a year, maybe a year and a half. I lost interest in it. The game, I didn't compute to me. The mechanics, I didn't get it. The only reason I came back to it wasn't because, I should try the game again on my own volition. It was you still playing it, and you encouraging me to try again. And even then, I didn't grasp the game, but I did keep playing. And it was only after a year after that things started to click.
I think the original reason you didn't play it is because you didn't pick it. And so you just...
I don't think so. But no, like I had to come... The only reason I came back to the game, being a lover of these types of games, was because someone else in my life was already playing it. it wouldn't have come back to me to try again. And the reason was because I didn't grasp it the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
Even the second time around, I didn't quite grasp it, but I saw how epic you were playing. And I'm like, there's obviously something I'm missing.
Sure.
But if I'm by myself, and you have to remember, no matter how, even though this is primarily PC, when you are in trying to grow your product, right? You're putting it on multiple platforms. You have to kind of see it from a very fresh eye on my own perspective.
Yeah.
But like you said, it could be a complete moot point because my hopes and dreams are the same as yours for PoE 2. I hope they treat a new player very differently.
I think it will be. I also think they could just make things simpler on themselves too by doing something more Chinese realm related to the rest of the realms. But whatever, it is what it is. But no, it's fun. It was fun to watch them play. I'm curious to see what they all thought of it. We'll chat with them. But yeah, I think this is a good spot for us to wrap up episode 26. It's not 26, it's 62. Episode 62 of Forever Exiled, the Path of Exile podcast. I am Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Thank you guys so much for joining us for 62. We'll catch Patreons in a very unique After Dark, and everybody else will catch you guys in 63. Thanks a lot for joining us.
And the podcast was my favorite too. I just didn't know that we were allowed to talk about that. I thought it was just GGG PoE stuff.
Yeah, you can find more information down below. We got a website, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter for foreverexiled82. We got Discord, and we got our Patreon link. Those will all be found somewhere down below. Thanks again for joining us. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.